Noise and Hearing Conservation, a training video. This video covers occupational noise exposure, OSHA Standard 1910-95, for Industrial Safety Standards and Enforcement, IET 422, brought to you by James Barber and Steve Roberts. Let's start by defining what noise is. Noise is unwanted sound. When we are exposed to harmful noise, sounds that are too loud or loud sounds that last a long time, sensitive structures in our ears can be damaged, causing noise-induced hearing loss. These sensitive structures, called hair cells, are small sensory cells that convert sound energy into electrical signals sent to the brain. Once damaged, these hair cells cannot grow back. This graph shows some common noises and their decibel level. Note that hearing protection is required at 85 decibels. Now that we know what noise is, how can you tell when it's noisy? Above 80 decibels, people have to speak very loudly. At 85 to 90 decibels, people have to shout to be heard. And above 90 decibels, people have to move in close together to be heard at all. Let's take a few moments to discuss some of the effects of noise. Temporary threshold shift is a temporary shift in a person's audibility to a higher level resulting from a short-term, high-level noise exposure or lower noise for longer time periods, from which your ears will recover in several hours' time. Noise-induced permanent threshold shift is a loss of hearing at lower sound levels that your ears will not recover from, shifting your hearing range higher. Acoustic trauma is a temporary or permanent loss due to a sudden, intense acoustic noise event. Finally, tinnitus, known as ringing in the ears, predominantly caused by a long-term exposure to high sound levels. Paragraph C of OSHA Standard 1910-95 discusses the Hearing Conservation Program. Whenever noise exposures equal or exceed an 8-hour time-weighted average of 85 decibels measured in slow response, or equivalently a dose of 50%, the employer shall administer a continuing effective hearing conservation program. Paragraph D and its subparagraphs cover monitoring. When information indicates exposure may equal or exceed an 8-hour time-weighted average of 85 decibels, the employer shall develop and implement a monitoring program. 1910-95, paragraph D, subparagraph 1, subparagraph II, discusses representative personal sampling. In instances of high worker mobility, significant sound variations, or significant components of impulse noise making area monitoring inappropriate, the employer shall use representative personal sampling to comply. This photo shows one method of personal representative sampling as the worker wears a shoulder-mounted dosimeter. Paragraph G of OSHA Standard 1910-95 discusses the audiometric testing program. The employer shall establish and maintain an audiometric testing program by making testing available to all employees whose exposures equal or exceed an 8-hour time-weighted average of 85 decibels. Paragraph G, subparagraph 5, subparagraph I of OSHA Standard 1910-95 says the employer shall establish a valid baseline audiogram for subsequent comparison within 6 months of an employee's first exposure. 1910-95, paragraph I and its subparagraphs discuss hearing protectors. 1910-95, paragraph I, subparagraph 1 says employers shall ensure hearing protectors are worn. 1910-95, Paragraph I, subparagraph 2, says that hearing protectors shall be worn by an employee who is required by the standard to use hearing protection, who is exposed to an 8-hour time-weighted average of 85 decibels or greater, an employee who has not yet had a baseline audiogram, or an employee who has experienced a shift in hearing capacity, otherwise defined as a threshold shift. 1910-95, paragraph I, subparagraph 3, says employees shall be given the opportunity to select their hearing protectors from a variety of suitable hearing protectors provided by the employer. Appendix B of the standard discusses methods for estimating the adequacy of hearing protection attenuation. The noise reduction rating, developed by the Environmental Protection Agency, and methods developed by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health are used to determine whether a particular hearing protector provides adequate protection. Paragraph J, subparagraph 4 of OSHA's Standard 1910-95 says whenever noise exposures increase to the extent that hearing protection no longer provides adequate attenuation, the employer shall provide more effective hearing protectors where necessary. 1910-95, paragraph K, discusses the training program. Subparagraph 1 of paragraph K says the employer shall institute a training program and ensure employee participation. Subparagraph 2 of paragraph K of OSHA Standard 1910-95 says the training shall be repeated annually for each employee included in the hearing protection program. The training shall be up to date and be consistent with the changes in protective equipment and work processes. Paragraph M and its subparagraphs discuss record keeping. The employer shall maintain an accurate record of all employee exposure measurements required by paragraph D of 1910-95. The noise exposure records are to be retained for 2 years. Audiometric testing records are to be maintained for the duration of the affected employee's employment. This concludes our training video of occupational noise exposure, OSHA Standard 1910-95.